There's a common stigma among the human race that is really baffling to me. There are a couple of scenarios that I can understand why the phobia would be there, or the frustration, or what have you. But I don't understand why so many people have such an aversion to public speaking. It seems almost like this encroaching, similar to an arachnophobia or a vertigo or what have you. It's weird, because talking to your friends, not that hard. A lot of us do it daily, if not, more frequently than even that. Many of us do it by the minute, by the hour. Some of us are doing it right now while this video is playing. And I find it so interesting that is so different than speaking to a group of people that we don't know. If you think about it, shouldn't that be flipped around? Shouldn't you be more terrified to talk to your friends than colleagues or people actually not colleagues, people that you've never met before? The likelihood that somebody who has never met you before will be discourteous to you is abnormally high right now. Granted, but typically, in most scenarios, people that have never met you before are likely to be more courteous to you. Right? Your friends are the ones that are going to rag on you, make fun of you, pick on you for every little mistake because it's fun, and we're friends, and we can get away with that, right? Right? Don't let that happen either. I don't know your friendships. You do you. The whole reason I'm talking about this tonight, whenever you're watching this, the whole reason this video exists is because I did a presentation today. And I do a lot of presentations. I do a lot of presentations about products to people, specifically products that myself or my team will be developing programmatically for a use case. And that's really cool to me. I love that. But the presentations can also vary so far as to provide some sort of motivation. Now, I'm not a professional motivational speaker, despite the fact that I get paid to speak to people and hype them up to a degree. I am not paid specifically for that, and I don't go out of my way to do it more often than not. Today, I spoke to around 55 people, I think, 54 or 55 people that were mostly new hires to our company, which is really cool that I was asked to do so by the higher-ups of the company. My name is up there and thrown about, talked about for an experience that I had early on in the company. And if you want me to share that story, I will absolutely do that. Throw the suggestion or the recommendation or the request into the comments below, and I will happily share that story if you'd like. But if you don't care, then that's fine. But I was going through and practicing and realized that when I was in my car, because I got my teeth cleaned today, when I was in my car driving to the dentist's office and back from the dentist's office, I was practicing the speech over and over again out loud, because that's how I process better, over and over and over again. And I realized that this is totally fine. I'm good with this. I got my speech down. I ran through it, dry run, like 3, 4, 5 times in the span of this traveling, and I got it locked down. And then I got back to my desk, because I work from home, and I looked at my camera, just like I'm looking at you right now, and my stomach started getting butterflies. I'm like, why? I've shared this story probably 5 times now in front of smaller groups and larger groups. I think the largest was 80 people, maybe, something like that. And I've shared it a number of times outside of that. So why was this, every time I get these butterflies, like, ooh, this is weird. Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I figured I'd make a video talking about some of the ways in which we can mitigate those butterflies, or we can kind of get public speaking under our belt. And while it may never be enjoyable to you, you may find that it is much more tolerable than it was before. And I hope that this video does help you, because that enables you to communicate things to D&D nights or tabletop RPG nights, because there are some amazing places out there. There's a coffee shop right near where I live that hosts tabletop RPG nights for strangers. You get a couple of DMs taking up some chairs, and people just rotate in, come in, join in for a little while, hang out, do their thing, and then leave. And then maybe come back the next time, and come back the next time, and so on and so forth. And it's really cool. This would enable you to be that DM or a player, sharing your story, bringing yourself forward, better, stronger, faster. We have the technology. Or do we? There are a number of tips here that I wanted to bring up, and it's an indefinite number. Maybe we'll bridge into more in another video or something along those lines. I'm not sure yet. But as of right now, I think it's useful for you to work with me on this. The first one is breathe. Let's get this microphone out of here real quick. Do it with me now. I will never remember to link the articles, because I'm really bad at remembering to do things. But there have been a number of articles, a number of studies done in the psychological and the physiological realms that have shown that there is a sympathetic nervous system reaction to the conscious effort of breathing deeply. When you stop in a situation and you decide to take a couple of deep breaths, your sympathetic nervous system washes your body a little bit more and a little bit more. I don't know exactly what chemical it is, probably dopamine, maybe some serotonin. I don't know exactly. Excuse that. But it washes your system and helps your body kind of start to reorganize. It breaks that cycle of spiraling and helps kind of restore things. Now, I'm not saying it's going to get rid of all of your butterflies, but it is step one in a great many facets of life that are stressing you out. It's worth noting that. I studied that in my Psychology 101 class, where we took a quick segment on meditation and how that can help your psyche significantly. Another thing you can do is admit your nervousness. Nervousness is this weird dark trap, right? It's this weird feeling that we get inside of our bodies that kind of starts to turn toxic and churn your stomach and put a hot coal in there. Some people get diarrhea when they're nervous or anxious or what have you, and it really sucks. And sometimes all that needs to happen is that you hold a candle to it, or you hold a flashlight to it. You just point it out and you look it in the face and you say, I am nervous. I'm nervous. Every time I make a video, I'm nervous that I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like, really nervous, because I want to make sure that I'm providing the good content to you. The good content. Am I doing that now? I hope so. But if you admit that you're nervous, you're staring it blankly in the face and you're saying, I am nervous, but I still have to do this. Backing out would be way more energy than it's worth. And I've got a lot to do, so I'm nervous, but let's breathe and recognize that. All right? Another thing that I've heard that you can do to help mitigate some of your nervousness is to use minimal notes. And while that works for a lot of people, like myself, it won't necessarily work for everybody. And none of these things will 100% work every time, obviously, so just be aware. There's your disclaimer. Using minimal notes for me allows me to live in what I'm talking about. Allows me to embody what I am, who I am, and share with you my experience wholeheartedly. If I use notes, I get lost, and then I get nervous about losing my place in my notes. And that's more terrifying to me than, I don't know, than talking to people. I'd rather talk to people than lose my place in notes and then stutter through and have shaky hands and then my blood starts boiling and I'm like freaking out. It's a bad time. If you can get familiar with the content that you're presenting on, and when you're in school, it's, in my opinion, way different because in school, like they have you memorize a bunch of crap and I hate that. Learn your topic, know your topic as best you can. But when you're in a professional environment like I am most of the time, I know what I'm working on, I know what I'm doing, and it's totally okay for you to say, I don't know. So I hope that helps calm you down. It is totally okay to not know things. It is absolutely okay to not know things. We talked about pacing in another video, and that kind of introduces us to point number 4, which is be comfortable with uncomfortable silence. There's this, I do it a lot. I use or these filler words and things like that. People do that to fill out that silence.
Life finds a way.
I do it because I lose my train of thought really quickly, not because I'm nervous. It's because I'm resetting my point or resetting myself back on my track to provide the next point that I'm willing to speak about. And it certainly sounds unprofessional, but what are you going to do? I'm not perfect by any stretch. So if you can get away from filler words, great. They're really hard to. If you can't overcome them, or if you can't overcome them for the purposes that you have at the moment, that's okay. Recognize yourself that they're there. You don't have to vocally acknowledge them. Don't worry about that. Oh, and also, you can acknowledge to people that you're presenting to that you're nervous. Do that. They'll be understanding because most people don't like public speaking. There are also points out there. I think there are a couple of university sites that I've read through that have been like, be careful of your hand gestures. Be careful of your movement. Be super intentional. You don't want to be moving around flabbergasted or flamboyantly and distracting everybody around you from the content that you're spitting, the mad bars that you're spitting. I argue that. I argue that wholeheartedly. While your movement can be very distracting to some, the vast majority of people are going to be focused on this. Or their smartwatch. And if you can use hand gestures pointedly, focused, and in different pacing to what you're saying, or to accentuate your point, you can actually draw their attention away from their devices. I've done it so many times, and it's so powerful. It feels so good to say something so pointedly that you draw somebody's attention away from their screen to look at you, even if you are on one of their screens. Motion, when you're walking around pacing, I can understand how that can get distracting, or you can kind of wander around lackadaisically. I can get how that can be distracting, but for the most part, people are going to look at you like you are the subject matter expert of whatever you're talking about, and they kind of forget about those movements. Maybe if you're in a really professional setting, like maybe Shark Tank, maybe start to mitigate those a little bit because they can show that you're not as confident in yourself or what you're talking about. That can be important. So keep that in mind, I suppose. Practice. The final point I think I'm going to bring up to help kind of bring yourself through practice. In front of a mirror is ideal because then you can kind of get an idea of your facial expressions, and people are going to connect to you more through your facial expressions than you think. And that's why you see in a lot of my videos, I am very animated. It's actually, I've practiced it and done it so much that my facial expressions are just a part of who I am. My eyebrows move around on their own, my forehead crimples up, my nose scrunches, and I do a lot of different weird, wacky faces. It's not just for thumbnail stuff, believe it or not. It's actually just a part of who I am. If I'm making no facial expressions whatsoever, believe me, that means I'm either really sick, really tired, or I'm completely done with your crap, and I don't want to deal with you anymore. Like I'm an animated person by nature, anyway, but like it definitely took time to get familiar with what animations of my body were really me. And the only way I could really refine that was through talking to myself in a mirror, providing a speech on how my system architecture functioned properly, or I want to ask out a girl, or I need to memorize the entire story of Pinocchio and present it in less than 10 minutes. I had to do that in high school for public speaking class, and guess what? I got a B on that assignment. The only reason I got a B is because my presentation was 18 minutes long. It took the class over, where we only had 2 minutes between classes, and my teacher said that I couldn't justify giving you an A because of that, but I could not justify anything lower because you had everybody's attention so firmly that I could not bring myself to crush that part of your presentation. You were amazing. I was very proud of that. I still am. Yes, I'm long-winded. Get over it. But seriously, practice. Get to know your content that you're looking to speak about. Internalize it as best you can. And if you miss a couple of key points, there's almost always a section for asking questions. And if people ask you a question, you can say, I meant to get to that in the presentation. I apologize. I lost my place. Or, I'm very nervous, but that's just kind of the way things go. If you're really looking to dive deep in the pool, make YouTube videos and publish them like this. Talk about nothing and don't look at the views. You can look at interaction. If you get interaction, good for you. But you can throw yourself out there, and that's one way to gain confidence, or to gain a little bit of a callus that says, I don't care what people think. But practice. It makes perfect, well, nearly perfect, but more importantly, practice shows the mistakes so that you can kind of overcome those and compensate for those as you go. It's just as important. Failure is only failure if you refuse to learn from it, right? So if you choose to learn from your mistakes, they're not failures. They are mistakes. They're part of the learning process. And that is okay. It is totally okay to make mistakes. I do it all the time, and I learn from them as much as I possibly can. Sometimes it takes a couple times, but I try. The other thing is I want to see what it will take to make a tool. There's a joke in there somewhere. I want to see what I could do, because in our age of pandemic or exposures or work from home or whatever you want to call it, a lot of these conversations, a lot of these kinds of presentations or public speaking stories or what have you are done on Zoom or Discord chats or Slack huddles or whatever. Like, you have a digital interface here, and to me, it's a lot easier to talk to a camera than it is to talk live. So I kind of want to see if I can make a tool that is just like a GIF or a looping video of a bunch of stock footage of people on a Zoom call, and see if like that helps people practice their speech giving. Let me know if you'd find that useful. I might do it anyway, but let me know if you'd like that. I might be able to come up with something and throw it out on the internet somewhere as a public link, maybe on Imager or something like that. Who knows? Could be very useful for people. So, that being said, this video is a little bit long. I don't want to belabor too many points, but we're sitting at, I think, about 20 minutes for recording. So that's right about on par with what I would expect. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns or suggestions for this content, for this specific content, please let me know in the comments, because I take this very seriously. I want to empower you to share stories in a more powerful way and externalize your internal monologue. I want to be able to help you and enable you into that. And I can't do that unless there's some back and forth, some conversation. So please let me know what you think and throw out there some suggestions or questions that you have so I can cover them in another video. If you did like this video, you know the deal. Hit the thumbs up and make sure it's filled in, because I really enjoy making this content, but I want to make it, and I want to make it for you. So, the sooner you like, the sooner you comment, the sooner you subscribe, the sooner I know that you like this content in particular. I want to make sure that this is Not targeted like ads are targeted, but targeted at what you all have questions about. You know? That makes sense? Cool. So, just to recap, breathe. Admit your nervousness to the people you're presenting to or talking to. Use minimal notes if that's how your brain works. Otherwise, feel free to write notes down in sentences if you have to. And bold keywords. That could be a useful one. Become comfortable with that weird silence and try not to fill it with uhs or ums. There's a time and a place, and usually in a public facing situation, that silence is okay. And having the uhs or ums, not so much. But for the most part, most people don't care. Be aware of your movements, hand gestures, whatever. You know how I feel about that one. I say use them intentionally, but most of the time it's pretty hard to have too many hand gestures. Just don't make them all the same loudness or the same intensity all the time. And then, of course, practice, practice, practice. Practice, 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 practice. You know the drill. Hit it up. Thanks so much for watching this video. I appreciate you, and thank you so much. And until next time, have a good one.